All right, we are live. Hello. Happy Monday and happy St. Patrick's Day to those who celebrate. Nick Marro here with DFS Jayhawk, as always, to help you break down tonight's NBA DFS main slate on both DraftKings and FanDuel. Pretty big slate tonight. I think we're looking at 10 games or so, maybe less. But usually FanDuel's the one that keeps the late game. Tonight, FanDuel cut off the late game, which is Lakers Spurs, and DK left it on. So a little bit different than usual. But obviously, this time of year, a lot of teams tanking, a lot of teams resting for the playoffs. So we got some value across the board. Jayhawk, how you feeling, man? What's your initial take on this slate?
Yeah, man, looks like a fun one. We were talking pre-stream. Looks like Chicago dominating the ownership here, but yeah, a bunch of teams to look at here. Couple of key news we're still waiting on. Obviously, Scottie Pippen, the big one. But yeah, fun slate today. Excited to break this down.
Yeah, man, for sure. And just so everyone knows, this does lock 30 minutes later than usual tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. Heat vs. Knicks are the first game on the board. So we're going to have a little bit of extra time to build. Stream's going to be at the same time. That's why we're here. But yeah, we'll definitely get to any questions if you guys have them. We'll definitely have time for that dummy build today. So yeah, let's get into the game-by-game breakdown here. First, let's take a look at chat. Before I fall too far behind, shouts out Ben Jizzy here early. Definitely appreciate it. Jerry Tanner as well. Yeah, it's a bit of a late one. A lot of late games on 10 o'clock. Landon saying, hey, hey, appreciate it, Jose, one of our beloved regulars here. 1 to 10, how much do you guys like Tyus Jones? I'd say it depends if he starts or not. I have seen a few sites projecting him to come off the bench, even with Beal out. If he's starting, I'd say 6 or 7, just because we have so many good guards. But where are you ranking him tonight, Jayhawk? I know we talked a bit about this before we went live.
Yeah, so you nailed it. Pretty much comes down to me if he starts or not. The model seems to think Gillespie, the Villanova Wildcat legend, is going to start here. But yeah, just kind of depends on if he starts for him.
Yeah, totally agree. And I mean, we've been playing Tyus any game with Beal out this year, but all those games, I think Tyus has started. So that's definitely going to matter. Landon, yeah, he is the most played. If he comes off the bench, though, Booker's going to run the point. So just proceed with some caution, but we'll keep an eye on that. Shouts out to Rare Finch here as well, saying, hey, again, appreciate you guys being here. Let's get into the game-by-game breakdown. At 7:30, only one game. Miami Heat taking on the New York Knicks. On the Miami side of things, no Alec Burks, no Josh Christopher. Highsmith's available, still no Jovic. Duncan Robinson available. Drew Smith out for the year. Isaiah Stevens with the G League. Andrew Wiggins questionable, which is somewhat significant. So pulling up Miami, obviously not the best matchup here on paper, taking on the Knicks. No surprise that they're not getting a ton of love in terms of ownership. But yeah, I mean, Hero looks okay as a tournament play, pushing a 10 OF index, not quite there. Not a great spot for Bam. He's pretty expensive. I don't know that we need to get there. Yeah, man, it's tricky. Like Jaime was going to be chalked the other day that he came off the bench. I think if Wiggins is out, he could slide into the starting lineup, in which case he would be pretty appealing as a value play. At the same time, we're dealing with Eric Spoelstra here. He's got a deep bench. He's fine to kind of mix and match things. Wouldn't be shocked to see someone like Davion Mitchell maybe get the nod, who's spiked an upside from time to time. But yeah, 209 total against a tough defense. I don't think there's any priorities here. Maybe if Wiggins is out, we get something to slide in the starting lineup we're interested in, but nothing for me for now on Miami. How about you?
Yep, pretty much on the same page here. Definitely dependent off that Andrew Wiggins news, but I think Tyler Hero is the one guy I was getting to. 5% owned, high minutes. I think he's fine, but yeah, if Wiggins does sit, you mentioned that you can maybe take a stab on Hawkes, but for the most part, as of right now, I think I'm mostly fading the suit.
Yeah, shooters do tend to do well in the garden. I mean, a little bit of extra usage for Hero might be enough for you to get to some of him as a tournament play. His price did come down a bit, but again, we'll know that news soon. I kind of think Wiggins plays, but wouldn't shock me to see him out. Over on the Knicks side of things, still no Jalen Brunson. I think that's it. Huck Porty, if you consider him relevant, he's not going to be available. So yeah, with Brunson out, we've seen McBride starting most of these games. He's played pretty well. The price is up on him though. I still think he's playable on DK at 5,500. It's just we have so many good guards to choose from tonight. At the same time, 3 straight games over 30 fantasy points for McBride. So at low ownership, I do think he's a good pivot off of some of the other chalky point guards. Other than that, not the best matchup here for Towns. We have seen that he can take that extra usage and go a long way with it. Coming off a really good game against Golden State, where he got over 50 fantasy points in only 29 minutes. But yeah, man, other than that, I mean, you can make a case for Hart. Bridges, OG. I don't think any really stand out necessarily. For me, it's McBride, and it's more of a DK play. But yeah, I think he's under owned. It's just, yeah, not a great matchup. Again, I think this game is the lowest total on the board. So, how are you handling the Knicks here?
Yeah, so the Knicks overall, not a team I'm super happy about getting to here. Starting with Cat Towns, he just hasn't flashed the ceiling performance I'm looking for. So Cat's not a guy I'm getting to a bunch of. And then McBride, I do like that shout. He's like a pivot to guys like Trey Jones. I think Herder's in that price point too. So maybe
Hmm.
you could get to McBride as a pivot. And then the guy I want to shout out here, OG Anobi. If you're watching game logs, he's been balling out for New York here without Brunson. 1% owned. I think he's fine as like a potential pivot to some other guys too.
Yeah, I mean, OG's been shooting pretty much as well as he has his entire career. It's been going on for a few weeks, though, so I do think we can kind of lean into that a little bit. The price is up on him, 7K, some sticker shock for me, but as kind of a last piece in, a good way to get different. I don't mind it at all. I mean, there's a lot of 7K plays that don't hit those 50-point marks that we're looking for that are much more popular, so definitely a case to be made for OG. Next game on the slate here, then we'll get back to chat. We got the Pacers taking on the Timberwolves. There's a bunch of games at 8 o'clock, 3 games at 8 o'clock. So I'm gonna have to take a look here. It's probably in a different order than I'm going off of, but yeah, on the Pacers side of things, Freeman and Ray J. Dennis are probable. They're up from the G League. Not that that matters too much. Johnny Furphy is questionable. Big piece of news here, actually. Tyrese Halliburton is questionable. Isaiah Jackson is out. Quentin Jackson's probable. Naismith questionable. Pascal Siakam out and Miles Turner questionable. So coming into the slate, I didn't really think Indiana was a big point of really contention or anything like that. But now seeing that Siakam's out, I'm guessing we're probably going to see Obi Toppin get the start here at the 4. If Naismith's out, that secures even more minutes for him. So definitely someone to keep an eye on. If he is in the starting lineup, is probably Obi Toppin. Again, not the best matchup, but if you're looking for value at a pretty thin forward position, I do think he's going to be appealing. If Halliburton's in, I mean, he's fine, kind of priced where he should be. If he's out, though, probably going to be a big boost to Andrew Nemhard as the starting point guard. And also, obviously, TJ McConnell, who, even when he gets this increased opportunity, he is going to come off the bench, probably capped around 20 minutes. But we've seen in these games with Halliburton now, he can certainly hit that ceiling even in limited minutes. Turner's okay here. Again, not the best matchup against Minnesota. I am interested to see if Matherin would get the start if Naismith would be out. I feel like they want him coming off the bench for his scoring right now. So there is a world where we see like Jarvis Walker and Obi Toppin starting. Not something I'd really be banking on. But to me, Toppin is the intriguing value play here. A little bit more expensive on FanDuel, but 4,400 power forward. I don't mind him. Again, we do just want to confirm he's starting. But yeah, man, it's kind of tough. I guess if Hallie's out, we could add TJ to that group of point guards. Nemhard priced where I'm not crazy about him, but he kind of joined that group as well. Turner should see a little bit of a boost with Siakam out, but again, not the type of matchup I really want to chase that in. It's tricky, man, until we have the news. But I do think Toppin's probably the most interesting play here for Indy. How are you handling the Pacers?
Yeah, I absolutely love Obi Toppin today. I have him like in the top of my value sheet overall. He just seems under owned here. You mentioned it;
Mhm.
it's a tough spot against Minnesota, but 17.1 DK value. I think he's a very good play on both sides. So, like Toppin, and then assuming Hallie plays here, I don't really love anyone else here from Indiana. You mentioned if Nimhard, if Hallie sits, you can maybe look to Nimhard, but just not a great spot here for Indiana overall against this Minnesota team.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. And yeah, if we do get that news, guys, obviously we'll kind of backtrack and talk through it. There's a lot of ways they could go with the starting lineup, but right now we know Siakam's going to be out. So if Toppin starts, I do think he's really solid value. So just keep an eye on that. Over on the Minnesota side, they are as healthy as they've been all season. No one on the injury report today other than G Leaguers. So they got Conley back, they got Gobert back, even Chenza, who's been announced, is available. So yeah, just not an easy team to get to because again, they're kind of priced where they should be. Edwards always has enough upside to kind of justify using him in tournaments. McDaniels has been an absolute beast. I think he's still underpriced on DK, even with this team being fully healthy. He's the other guy I have some interest in. But yeah, other than that, man, just not much I'm really excited to get to. There's too many good cheap guards tonight to try to play the roulette game of DiVincenzo or Conley. don't mind mixing in some Edwards. I do think McDaniels is somewhat appealing more so on DK, but just another team that's tough to get to because they're healthier than they have been the past few weeks. How are you handling the Timberwolves?
Yeah, so starting with Anthony Edwards here, I think there's definitely GPP appeal here. Coming off a huge, I think he had 43 real points yesterday. So coming off a huge game here for Ants. I think he's firmly in play at his price. And then Jaden McDaniels, I think, had a huge game as well yesterday. 6,600,
Mhm.
1% owned. I think they're both fine in tournaments. I'm barely getting to either one, though, outside of Ants. And then Gobert, 5% owned, 6,200. I like the price point. I kind of question the ceiling a little bit, but I think he's a little bit too cheap. So just kind of those main three is the guys I was looking at here.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. And on the Edwards and McDaniels point, obviously they both played great, but it is a back to back, so there's some concern. But in that same breath, I mean, they played limited minutes. Edwards got there in 30. I think McDaniels only played 26. So you don't really need to worry about them being rested. And with this being a back to back, hopefully that means this game's competitive. And hopefully Halliburton's in to keep it close. We don't want to deal with any blowouts anywhere tonight if we can help it. But yeah, we're about to talk about another game here that does have some blowout potential, unfortunately. 76ers set to take on the Rockets. Philadelphia, they're in tank mode at this point. Bona out, Drummond, Embiid, George, Gordon, Lowry, Maxey, McCain, Oubre, Lonnie Walker, all out. Yabusele is questionable. So Philly gets really interesting. Not a good matchup against Houston. But they are very short in terms of what they have available. We've seen Grimes playing really well. It's just he's priced to a point where this game would have to be competitive for him to probably hit value. Jared Butler is up to 6K on DK, not getting much love there, but on FanDuel at just 5,200, where you also get points for stocks, he looks pretty solid. Didn't quite get there last night, but he has been kind of pushing 30 minutes consistently. It is a back to back, so I don't mind that he was kind of capped at 28 last night. I think that makes him a little bit safer to get over 30 here. I think he looks good. And then we're probably going to see Council in the starting lineup, Edwards in the starting lineup. I don't know. They're fine as kind of filler pieces, but at the same time, I don't want to sit here and really tout either of them. I will say Council of those two, probably the more appealing. And then Jeff Downton off the bench has been pretty solid. Only 19 minutes yesterday, got over 23 fantasy points. He's someone who could see extended run here on the back to back. He was rested yesterday. Really starting to dig deep for value now. O'Shea Brissett, actually, if Yabusele is out, I think he's going to have to play some minutes at the five. So he's another guy I've circled as a potential value that's drawing really no ownership at all right now. So not a team I'm excited to get to because of the matchup. There's definitely some blowout risk, but at the same time, I mean, they need guys to play minutes. I think Butler's fine. Probably won't pay that premium for Grimes. I like Council and Edwards in that order. Definitely prefer Council if you can find that salary. But even coming off the bench, I think Downton's pretty interesting. And then if Yabusele is out, O'Shea Brissett becomes very appealing again. No Adam Bona joining Embiid and Drummond as centers that are unavailable for Philadelphia. But a little bit of news we're waiting on. Obviously, not a great matchup, but I do think we probably have to get to some Sixers tonight. Jayhawk, which of these guys are you kind of focusing in on?
Yeah, so definitely wanted to hear your take with Philly, but I think for me, you nailed it. Pretty much going to be Council, Butler, and then the rest of the team. I'm not getting too much here, they're definitely better on FanDuel, like you mentioned, at 6 or 8%. I think I mentioned, or we mentioned McBride as a pivot to Trey Jones. I think Butler could also make sense as a pivot here. 6K, tough matchup though. I do want to note that against Houston here. So I think Butler and Council are the main guys for me. Both about 10% on DK, but I'll mix them in at their ownerships. But I'm not like super high on either one on DraftKings.
Yep. And again, I do just want to drive home Brissett as a potential value play. They're just so thin in the front court. They do have Alex Reese. They don't seem to want to give him more than 20 minutes. Brissett's a vet, so like if the game were to blow out, you would think he'd come off the floor, but they're just using these guys to eat minutes right now so they can get to the finish line. Brissett playing 22 plus in back-to-back games, pretty much pushing value at that price too. So if we were to see him slide in as the starting center, I definitely have interest in him. I pretty much no ownership. But again, kind of hoping Yabusele's out to feel feel better about that. And if Yabusele's in, this is one of the guys that they've said would be limited in terms of his minutes. It is a back to back. He's been playing back to backs though without restrictions. So if Yabu's in, you could get there. For me, plenty of other center options. I don't know that I'm necessarily super interested. Over on the Houston side of things, obviously some blowout risk here. No Eamon Thompson still. Reed Shepard is out. David Roddy's back down with the G League. So they're kind of healthy. We've been dealing with them without Thompson for about a week or so now. Van Fleet came back right when he went away. So there hasn't really been any big spikes in terms of upside for these guys. They've been kind of alternating whether it's Smith or Eason who starts. I think whoever starts is fine. I do prefer Eason in terms of his upside, but in this particular matchup, with the widespread and this team being healthy, at least as healthy as they've been the past week or so, not much from Houston. I'm really keying in on. How about you?
Yeah, so I kind of this is kind of similar. I think we saw Indiana as a huge favorite here the other night against Philly. I think any of these guys can get there. Like Sengun, especially like 3% owned. If this game stays close, he could easily nuke. But that's the thing. I don't see this game staying close. 17-point spread. Yeah, maybe you can get to a guy like Eason. It's difficult for me to play these Houston guys, kind of locking the ceiling potentially with their minutes.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. And it's funny. Every game we think is going to blow out hasn't been lately. So it's almost better to just not get think that way. But at the same time, it's not like anything's really popping in the model in a huge way. I'm with you. I do think Sengun looks pretty good in terms of his upside. Other than that, just a tough team to get to. One more 8 o'clock game, but before we do, we'll take a quick look at chat here, try to catch up on everything. Yeah, we talked about McBride. He looks good. More of a pivot than anything over some of the other guard values, but we got a lot of good guard value tonight. Unicorn saying money time. Hope so. My friend, fading Miami and Knicks, not a bad idea, Jose. I don't know that there's anything you necessarily need there unless you're jamming McBride or Cat, but yeah, not really priorities. Luca, again, only on DK tonight. It's funny. FanDuel usually keeps the late games. DK doesn't, but DK keeping the late game. FanDuel is not. So Luca is available. He will definitely be a play on DK. We'll talk about him when we get to that game. We all fade Cat. He goes for 65 plus. That's usually how it goes. I know we had one of these games recently between the Magic and the Warriors. Banchero went for 70, Steph went for 80, and we were like, yeah, just skip the first game. So the field's thinking the same way. There are still good tournament plays there if you're chasing upside. Toppin, if Turner is out, Turner's in. I don't think we're worried about him. It's more so Siakam who's out, so probably not Thomas Bryant. Duren looks good. We'll get to that game in a minute. Shouts out to Don saying, homies, appreciate you being here, my friend. What are the chances both Jones brothers are in the winning lineup? Jayhawk actually brought up the same exact question or similar to it, Jose, before the stream. So you guys are on the same page. There's a good chance. I mean, they're both good values. Jayhawk, you want to talk about the Jones brothers a little bit?
Yeah, dude, how legendary would it be in Discord tonight? We see Jones brother in the winning lineup. That'd be pretty cool. But I think it's definitely high. We noted on it. Definitely Trey Jones, and if Tyus starts here, he's going to project out as one of the best plays. So I think it's pretty high.
Yeah, we need ties to start. We have played the Thompson brothers a few times this year. Probably won't be playing the Martins or the Morrises anytime soon, but yeah, this is definitely one of the better brotherly tandems in the league right now. Okiki for Philly. This is interesting. I don't even know if he's in the DK player pool. Yeah, former Orlando Magic player. He has spiked upside at times. To me, I do prefer just going to Brissett, who's pretty much the same exact play in my opinion. But yeah, I do appreciate you bringing up Okiki. He does provide a little bit of depth in that front court. Maybe that does mean Yabu's out, but we'll know that soon. Any interest in Chuma for you, Jayhawk? I don't even know if he's in the DK player pool, honestly.
So I didn't know either, but I do know that guy is a Orlando Magic legend. So maybe I don't think so. I'm not getting any Chuma.
Yeah, maybe if he gets the spot start or something, we could go there. But like I said, I think O'Shea at 1% owned is sneaky enough. We don't have to go too far down that depth chart. Yeah, Jones and the Champagnes, are they both on the slate? Yeah, if you're on DK, you can play both Champagnes tonight. So, hey, why not, man? This time of year, I mean, maybe just lean into the narratives. One more 8 o'clock game to break down here. This one probably more appealing than the others. Where is it? Scrolling up. Again, these are in a different order than the injury report. So the Pistons are taking on the Pelicans. On the Pistons side of things, no Jaden Ivey. We've pretty much known that, though. So this is a pretty healthy team here. But the Pels have been a pretty good matchup for opposing offenses. Cade looks pretty solid here if you can afford him. The price on him has actually come down on DK. He's still spiking that ceiling, but not as often as he had been the past few weeks. Jalen Duran, forget who brought it up a minute ago. He looks really solid here on a center slate. Well, we have some value, we have some pay ups, but the mid range, I don't know, it's kind of muddled. I do think Durant stands out a bit there. Over 10-point OF index rating, definitely a good sign for him. You can mix in Tobias Harris, Oscar Thompson. I like what he's doing points per minute, but they lifted the minutes restriction and then started playing him less minutes. Can't really wrap my head around that one. You can make a case for guys like Beasley, Schroeder, even coming off the bench. Probably don't get there myself personally. More than anything, it's Durant for me here. I do like him a lot. Cade makes a lot of sense too, if you could find the salary for him. But there's a lot of good guards on this slate. So Durant more than anything for me, man. How are you handling Detroit?
Yep, absolutely love that Jalen Duren call. I mean, New Orleans has gotten torched all year by centers, and Duren's like the perfect center to torch them once again. So love Duren in tournaments. I have like double the field right now. And then Cade Cunningham, I think he looks good. 9,800 on DraftKings. I think it's just too cheap in this spot. So love Cade up top. It's going to come down to Cade versus Luca for me. That's going to be a tough question, but I think Cade looks great here. And then I'm getting some Tobias, 11% owned. Did you have a interesting take on Tobias here?
No, I mean I'm pretty neutral on him. Like I think he's good as like a last piece in. I mean he probably gets you 35 to 40 fantasy points, which is what you need at his price. But I don't know that he's killing you or carrying you. So I'm pretty neutral. I think he's a good play. Just again, kind of in the middle type of deal.
Yeah, like a filler play in your lineup. I agree.
Exactly. Yeah, if you want to get a little weird with it, Beasley, Schroeder, Stewart off the bench have been playing significant minutes. Tough to really say one's safer than the other, but you could mix them in if you're playing 150. Over on the Pels side of things, obviously still dealing with some injury news here. They are getting Zion back tonight, though, but no Brandon Boston, no Herbert Jones. Yves Missy is questionable, which is significant. Still no DeJounte Murray. Kelly O, also questionable. And Zion himself is questionable for personal reasons. I've thought he was playing all day, so this is news to me. But yeah, we got to talk about this front court. So if Missy and or Olenek are out, we could go back to our boy Carlo Matkovic's value. His price hasn't come up much. The minutes have been there whenever one of these guys are out, but at the same time, if they're both in, I don't love it because he's probably going to be capped around 20. Um, Other than that, man, it's kind of tricky. I think Zion plays. If he's out, obviously that's going to provide a boost to guys like Trey Murphy, CJ McCollum. We could see Bruce Brown get a start here if Zion were to be out. He's coming off a really solid game against the Spurs. Inconsistent, though. Would want to see him in the starting lineup to feel good about that. And as more guys get ruled out, he's not going to start, I think, under any scenario. But Jose Alvarado, even coming off the bench, is cheap enough to kind of mix in as a guard pivot over some of the chalkier options we have. CJ's fine. Again, Trey Murphy, fine. I don't know. I can't sit here and say I really like one over the other, but we do need to wait on this news. If Kelly O and Missy are in, I actually prefer Kelly O of the two. I think both of them are going to start. They're going to go big here. Missy's just been kind of tough to trust. Haven't really seen the upside. But again, if one of these guys are out, we probably see Makovich back in that starting lineup, who would quickly become a very popular value play. But the price did come up a little bit on him. So, any hunch on Zion or these other kind of questionable tags? This front court is kind of a mess. But yeah, for now, I don't mind getting to Zion if he's in. I do like Kelly O if he starts, and if either Kelly or Missy are out, I do think we could go back to Makovich. But Jayhawk, how are you going to handle the Pels?
Yeah, so the first touch on Zion, I expect him to play as well. Not sure what he's dealing with for personal reasons, but I think he should play here. And if he does sit, you mentioned it. I think both Murphy and CJ get bumps here. CJ obviously coming off a huge game, so I think this like game in particular fits shooters. So I think Murphy and CJ in this up tempo game could really thrive, especially if Zion sits. But as of right now, not really getting to much here. Just kind of dependent on this Zion news.
Yeah, if we do get that news before the end of the stream, we'll backtrack to this team and talk you guys through that. But definitely keep an eye on that front court. could look really different than what we're projecting right now with everybody in. But yeah, let's move right into the 9 o'clock window now. One game at 9 o'clock, very important game though. We got the Bulls taking on the Jazz, 240.5 point total, relatively tight spread. On the Chicago side of things, missing a lot of key pieces here. So Lonzo's out, Ao's out, Giddy's doubtful. He's not going to play. Kobe White is probable. He should be in and available. Kobe's been excellent, man. I really do like him a lot. Even pushing 8K on both sides, I think he's kind of the building block for me tonight. Joining him in that backcourt is Trey Jones, who's been absolutely outstanding. I think these are two of the better guard plays on the slate. Kevin Huerter, probably going to start at the three. All three of these guys, man, and they're all very chalky, but it is such an amazing matchup. I don't know that I can get away from them aggressively and feel good about it. Vooch has been back. They're slowly kind of increasing his minutes. He only played 29 last time. I think he could get over 30 here. At the same time, I'm not rushing to play him. It really is White, Jones, Herter for me. You can make a case for Buzelis. I don't know that we need to go there necessarily. He's kind of giving up a lot of usage to these other guys. But yeah, Herter, he's been much better fantasy player since the trade. I mean, Trey Jones, since he left the Spurs as well. These are talented players, and they're getting a chance to kind of show it. And yeah, Kobe White, definitely a different guy on this team with Levine obviously traded away, and no Giddy kind of taking usage away from him. So Bulls look excellent here, man. They're chalk. I totally get it, though. Jones, White, and Herter kind of core plays for me tonight. How about you?
Yep, couldn't have said it better myself. I think all three of those guys look awesome. Going to be a part of the core for me. And then in terms of, and that's White, Trey Jones, Herter, and then Vooch. I wasn't really getting there. I think it's just more of I'm getting just a lot of other centers here. He's going to project like okay at his price, but 30-minute cap, I don't love it. And then I don't hate that Matas call. 4,700, he does have a ceiling, in my opinion. So I don't hate him at 5%, but it's mainly just those top three guys, the chalky ones that I like here.
Yeah, something to keep an eye on. Patrick Williams has actually been playing more minutes than Bottas, even coming off the bench. Hasn't been super productive with them, but if we're making a case for Bottas, I think we can make a case for Williams as well. And the field is getting there. I can't sit here and say I'm super confident in either. And I do want to drive this point home. I like Herter, Jones, and White, but Herter feels riskier than the other two just because he is very much scoring dependent. But yeah, all three will be in a lot of my lineups tonight, especially White and Jones. Great game environment here, and it is a little bit later too, so you have some maneuverability if we're getting some later news. Over on the Utah side of things, this team is kind of trying to tank. They haven't been that good at it, but Keontae George, Jordan Clarkson, both questionable. We know John Collins is going to be out. Laurie questionable. Svi questionable. He was a late ad. Sexton is out. KJ Martin is out as well. So another team that's kind of tough to talk about right now. I will say this: I do think Walker Kessler is a little bit underowned. He spiked upside. I mean, we've seen him pushing 50 fantasy points from time to time. We have him for 33 minutes. I mean, I think he gets to at least 30, and we can feel pretty good about that. Where he's priced, there's not a ton of meat on the bone, but at the same time, he is my favorite Jazz player here. I think regardless of who's in or out, we can feel good about him. Again, we already know that Collins is out, so we don't have to worry about Laurie as much. Yeah, the guards are getting healthier. I mean, George and Collier are in. Clarkson questionable. I don't think he plays here. George off the bench, definitely more upside than Collier, but Collier a little bit cheaper. You kind of use him as a floor play. But I do like Keontae more than Collier. I will say that. A lot of sites projecting Ju Zhang to get the start here. Back-to-back games over 20 fantasy points. I'd probably feel better about this if we got word that Clarkson and Laurie are out. Don't mind him as a last piece in, though. Definitely really cheap, makes it easier to afford guys at other positions. But for me, it's Kessler here more than anything. But another team, we kind of have to wait on some of this news before we could really take stands. Jayhawk, for now, how are you going to handle these Utah Jazz?
Yeah, so Utah, I think is definitely interesting here. A lot of news to wait on here. I think in general, it's a really good spot for Utah. So there should be fantasy appeal here, or against Chicago. I'm sorry. So like I think Collier, you mentioned that 6% on looks good. I think Kessler at 2%, another great center play to mix in against Vooch here. And then if Markkinen plays, he's 7K. No one probably gets there, but it's a great spot against his old team. So I don't think that's like the craziest 1% shout there if he plays here. And then that's about it. But I think like a lot of these guys are probably underowned for their upside.
Yeah, and if Laurie's out, maybe we see Sensabaugh slide in the starting lineup. It could be Filipowski, but like I said, I think no matter what, We could feel pretty good about Kessler. We could feel pretty good about Cleante George. To your point on Lara, yeah, it's his former team. Definitely one of the more talented players. But they've been capping his minutes. I don't think it's because he's hurt as much as they just want to tank. So if he's playing really well, it might play him into less minutes. But the price is down on him. FanDuel especially, 6,200 does feel too cheap. So don't mind that call at all. Quick look at chat here, then we'll get into this 10 o'clock window. We got a bunch to get through. One big on Okiki a couple years ago. Unicorn, love to hear that. Draymond or Tobias? I think it's Draymond for me. How about you, Jayhawk?
Probably Draymond. I'm getting slightly more Draymond, so we'll go with that.
Yeah, about to get to this in the game by game, Jose, but I'll throw it over to Jayhawk. How strong do you feel about Champagne for Washington right now?
That's a tough question. I think he's just like probably about average for me. I'm getting just below the field, so I think he's okay. I'm not getting a ton.
Yeah, I hear that. Landon saying likes him and Sar. Jose saying thank you. Power here. What asking about our minutes projection for Luca? Let me pull this up real quick. To his point, first back to back with LA. Historically, Luca's not a guy who rests in back to backs. We have him at 35 minutes, and he's already listed as probable. I think he's going to go here. They need to win these games. I mean, he played 39 last night. I'm looking down his game log. The last time he played a back to back was the 27th and 28th. He was still on Dallas, played 35 minutes. So, yeah, I think if he's in, he's safe for 35. I think the Lakers are going to try to hope they can blow them out quickly here. But yeah, I don't think we have to cap Luca at all, honestly. And I'd be surprised if he didn't get full run. Like, I don't think they want to play him in limited minutes. Is today a one CUET build or two? Do you know what that means here? Don, I may need some clarification on
Yeah, I don't know.
center. Are you? Is that center? You're saying? I think it's maybe one. Honestly, just because there's so much good guard value. If you mean something other than center, feel free to correct me. Usually on slates like this, we're jamming in two centers, but I actually think some of the guard value is safer than the center value today. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Feel free to correct me if you meant something else there, Don. But yeah, let's get into the 10 o'clock window now. Definitely one game to key in on here. We get the Memphis Grizzlies in Sacramento taking on the Kings. Grizzlies, no Aldama, no Gigi Jackson, no Yuki. John Morant is out. And to your point earlier, Scottie Pippen is questionable. All year, I've been kind of beating the drum of when Jaw's out, just play Kennard. Pippen hadn't been very good, but over the past couple weeks, he's made me eat my words. He's been playing excellent. You wanted both of them, I think, in your lineups for the most part the past couple games with Jaw out. Probably going to be the same situation here again tonight. Scotty likely to come off the bench, but he has been out producing Luke Kennard, so I do just want to drive that point home. At the same time, I think both look excellent. Keep it on the ownership. I think you could use them in the same lineup without issue. Both seeing plenty of usage. Really nice total matchup here with a relatively close spread too against the Kings, who've been kind of struggling a little bit lately. So yeah, man, no Jaw. We're gonna have to like Pippen if he's in. Again, he's questionable. Kennard, I think either way, probably gonna get the start at the point. But yeah, Bain has been an absolute beast in these games with Jaw, and I think that's going to continue for the most part. I like him a lot here. The price is up on him. Kind of shocked he's not more popular though. Only 4% on DK, 13% on FanDuel. There are a few payups we're about to talk about on this slate, but I kind of like building to the mid range today. And one of those pieces that's making that feel good to me is Desmond Bain. I do think he's under owned. Jaron Jackson, another guy who historically has done really well with Jaw out of the lineup. Maybe not as much upside, but it's rare. We're getting him even cheaper than Desmond Bain. And as a result, he's rating as the better value play of the two in the model. So Jackson, Bain, Kennard, Pippen all look excellent to me. You can make a case for some of these other guys off the bench, like a Clark, maybe Edie, who's been inconsistent but has upside. But for me, man, it really is the guards. It's Kennard and Pippen first and foremost. Really do think Bain's under owned though, and Jaron Jackson looks pretty damn good to me as well. One of the better teams I think to get to tonight. How are you going to handle the Grizz? Uh oh. I think we lost Jayhawk. Yeah, we'll give him a minute to chime back in. But yeah, for now, Again, guys, I really like the guards here. I think we need to key in on both Kennard and Pippen. Bain looks excellent. I think he's one of the more under-owned upside plays on the slate, as is Jaren Jackson. When Jayhawk comes back, we'll ask him about the Grizzlies. But for the sake of timing and the show, I'm going to go ahead and get right into Sacramento. On the Kings side of things, Sabonis had been out for a while. He is back and available. Trey Lyles is going to be questionable here. Sabonis, not really projecting any sort of minutes cap on him. We have him at 32. This team's just kind of muddled right now. We got Monk, Levine, DeRozan, and Sabonis, all guys who can spike that ceiling. It's kind of like the Celtics, though. Like on a night-to-night basis, who's it going to be? I think you can maybe have one or two of these guys in your lineup feel okay about it, but they're all priced kind of expensive. I think the price has risen on most of these guys because we had no Sabonis for the past few weeks, and it hasn't really fully adjusted back down yet on either site. So while we do like this game, I think the Kings are kind of tricky to get to. I think Monk and DeRozan on FanDuel are affordable. Sabonis obviously flashes more upside than the others, and like we mentioned before, maybe not the best slate for center. So there is some merit to getting to him. But as far as the Kings go, not necessarily a team I'm prioritizing. Again, they're just healthier than they have been lately, which kind of makes them a little bit difficult to get to. Let's see here. So, and yeah, Don, center. Yeah, I don't think you need two centers tonight. So, Missy and Kelly O are both in. That makes Matkovich pretty risky. I think you could play either Kelly O or Missy. I think Kelly O's been more productive of the two lately. Why is Hawk Green? He told me before the stream it was super windy by him. So I'm guessing it has something to do with the wind. Unfortunately, we'll keep talking through. Hopefully, he comes back soon. And yeah, Jose Kamara was a late add to the injury report. We'll talk about them in just a minute. Jimmy versus Denver. Yeah, we'll get to that one as well. Zion now a game time decision. Not a good thing. I will say this though: if he's out, that Kelly Olynyk call is going to look even more appealing, and then potent perspectives here. While we wait for Jayhawk, I'll go ahead and sort by FanDuel value for you. Again, that late game is not on the FanDuel slate, so if you're using the model, you hit FanDuel main, you're going to notice the Lakers and the Spurs fall off. Right now, though, Gillespie's up there. That's one I don't fully agree with. Juzang, if he starts, okay, but I think Kennard, Kobe White, Champagny, Herder, Jones, Klingon, these guys all look really solid. That's me sorting by FanDuel value. AJ Johnson as a GPP punt. It's probably a no for me. Let me see if he even shows up in the model. Yeah, we're seeing 15 minutes for him. I mean, pushing a 10 value rating, 3.20 with index. I don't know. If we were projecting him more than 15 minutes, maybe Landon. For me, that's a no. I just think we have too many other places we can go today. Um, and yeah, Kings ownership. Why not, guys? While we wait for Jayhawk, give you guys some benefit here. Yes, Pippen showing up as chalk. White, Herder, Jones, Cunningham, Denny, Orlando Robinson getting a ton of love at center. About to talk through that game. Tyus Jones, again, I do agree with that. Just make sure he's starting. Draymond, Klingon, Duren, Champagny, Obi, assuming he starts. A lot to like tonight, guys. So definitely keep an eye on ownership. There's plenty of different ways to go. I'm hoping Jayhawk's back soon. Let me hate to kind of do this, but let me pull up my phone and see if he's in our Discord. I will. Da, 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 da. Yeah, there he is. My computer just shut off. Might have to run solo to the end. I said, okay, man, I'll be here. Just let me know. All good. So yeah, Jayhawk dealing with power issues. He is windy. And yeah, speaking of windies, yeah, you're saying Chicago is chalking you. So yeah, guys, still no Jayhawk, but let's keep going. We're going to keep going with the game by game, still making pretty decent time. Next game on the slate, we got Toronto and Phoenix. So this is a pretty significant one for sure. Toronto's been a pain, really difficult team to project because they are also tanking, but they're letting some of their guys play. Then pulling them in random times. It's been super frustrating, but no RJ Barrett tonight, no Grady Dick, Brandon Ingram, Jakob Podol, or Jacoby Walter. So pulling up Toronto, a lot of their key starters are out. The one guy we're seeing draw a lot of ownership on both sides is Orlando Robinson. Again, he has been playing better lately. I was down on him his first few games as a starter, but he's been more aggressive. He was pretty poor against Portland. I think Podol played that one, though. And again, with all these other guys out, there's definitely a little bit of extra usage to go around. Jamison Battle probably going to get the start. He's okay. His value hasn't really spiked an upside. Probably good for 20 to 25 fantasy points. Agbaji, projected to start here as well. I actually think he has more upside, but I can't say either are super trustworthy. Sorting by value, though, a little bit surprising. Lawson, coming off the bench, actually projects to be one of the better value plays here. I don't necessarily love it, but at the same time, I do think we can project him for 28 minutes with confidence. Don't mind him coming off the bench. And again, whether this game is close or it gets out of hand, he should be heavily involved. With quickly back, Sheed's going to move to the bench. I don't think that hurts him too much as a value play either. It's just we have too much solid value really to consider. Yeah, it's never great dealing with this Toronto team right now. Night to night, they're kind of doing crazy stuff. But if they're going to keep this game close, we probably see a lot of run out of Scotty, probably a lot of run out of Emmanuel quickly. But at the same time, they're priced where they pretty much should be. I think the most interesting play here is Orlando Robinson. The Suns definitely the better team on paper, but their defense hasn't been all that great. So, I wouldn't talk anyone off playing Orlando Robinson. Everything else is kind of boom or bust, though, the starters and the bench guys, because these minutes have been tougher to project than any team in the NBA. I really want to drive that point home. But Robinson, probably one of the better value centers we have tonight. Over on the Suns side of things, this is really interesting and a major talking point. No Grayson Allen, no Bradley Beal, Monte Morris, Nick Richards, Cody Martin, all probable. Not that they're super significant, but the model is absolutely loving Connor Gillespie here. Gillespie, excuse me. Do I like him personally? Not really. But the reason he's popping in the model is because he is projected to start. If he starts, that means we're going to see Booker at the point, which means Tyus Jones coming off the bench wouldn't be nearly as appealing, in my opinion. I'm really, really hoping they just start Tyus Jones. It'd be kind of crazy if they didn't. I don't know why they're trying to get Colin Gillespie more minutes. Ryan Dunn has slid into the starting lineup lately as well. But yeah, with Beal out, it definitely boosts the upside of guys like Booker and Durant. They both look really solid in the model here. Depending on how your build is looking, I think these are the types of mid-range plays you could go to. Again, I mentioned I really like Desmond Bain. I think Booker and Durant are good. Obviously, some blowout risk, but if this game stays close, they have tremendous upside, especially Booker, who's more consistently flashed that 50 plus point ceiling. But they both look good here. Nick Richards has actually been playing a little bit better lately, probably because Plumlee's been taking some minutes from him. Don't mind going to him as a pivot off of the chalky Orlando Robinson in the same game. I think they have similar ceilings. It's just the minutes for Richards have kind of been all over the place again because Plumlee has been filling in behind him. I don't want to play Plumlee here, though. Don't get that twisted. Royce O'Neal off the bench, the one bench piece I'm interested in. Again, with no Grayson Allen, there is some viability to maybe going to him. The bowl weeks have ended, it seems. So, more than anything here, it's Booker and Durant. If Tyus Jones starts, he's excellent value. If he comes off the bench, you can still play him, but I don't think the minutes of 28 that we're projecting is necessarily safe. Don't have a ton of interest in Ryan Dunn. He is dirt cheap, though. And the more I think about it, Dunn actually does appeal more to me than someone like Gillespie for sure. Definitely over Royce O'Neal, and he's not really getting the same love. So if you have Tyus Jones built into your lineups, maybe make sure he's at utility, and you could go down to a Ryan Dunn and then upgrade another position. Just make sure you kind of have that 2-for-2 setup going into the 10 o'clock games, because I think if Jones is in, you do want to play him. Again, if he's starting. Coming off the bench, though, I would proceed with some caution. And I do think Dunn is a pretty solid pivot, but he plays a different position, so you need to have that 2-for-2 setup. So just keep that in mind. Still no Jayhawk, unfortunately. Trying not to run out of breath. And then, shout out to Smitty's boy Castleton in Toronto. He's another guy, another bench piece. He's been excellent, man. I mean, 3-4 games in a row that he's hitting a ceiling. Really appreciate you bringing that one up. Supposed to be doing the show solo right now. It is a big boost. But yeah, Castleton, the model doesn't like him. That's why I didn't really highlight him. But at the same time, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games in a row over 23 minutes. All but one of those games, he's gotten you over 20 fantasy points. The issue now is that the price is up. He was sub 4K. Now he's still sub 5K, but don't think Castleton's crazy as a last piece in. And again, if you're kind of waiting to set up these 2-for-2s, maybe Castleton's something you have in your lineup that you can upgrade. Again, if you're going down to Dunn from Tyus Jones, etc., just have that 2-for-2 kind of set up. Because again, if Tyus Jones is starting, he's great. We got Jayhawk back. Shouts out, man.
Oh, we're
You
back. Okay,
survived.
cool.
You survived the
Yeah,
wind, I think.
technical difficulties. We had to deal with.
No, all good, man. So I've just ripped through. I'll give you a chance to talk through quickly.
Yeah,
Um, we don't want to go too far back, but Toronto and the Suns. What's your takes there? And again, I really kind of drove home the point that if Tyus Jones isn't starting, maybe go to like Ryan Dunn or something who's been playing well. We also have a lot of value in Toronto. Their minutes have just been all over the place. But just your overall take on that game, and then we'll move into the next.
Yeah, for sure. So getting the most of Orlando Robinson and Tyus Jones from this game, especially O-Rob here, 5K flat. I think he looks like a very good center play. And then we've covered this all stream, but if Tyus Jones, assuming he starts here, I think he looks awesome.
Yep. Couple comments here quickly. Does Vooch get enough minutes to roster him? I'd rather go Kessler, Jose. I think we have him capped around 28. He could get there in 30, though. Utah stinks. What's your take again on Vooch there, Jayhawk?
I think he's a okay for the price, but I'm not like super high on him in terms of like other centers on the slate.
Yep. And then, yeah, there's not a play in this lineup here. Usually we won't go lineup for lineup, Dom, but can you see this on your screen, Jayhawk? I don't know if you can.
Yeah,
Cade, Pippen, Kennard, Herter, Bain, Denny, Toppin, Klingon. I don't think there's a bad play listed there for Don.
yeah, I think that looks awesome, especially if we get Bane at low ownership, potentially
Yeah,
Nudge also.
totally agree. All right. So yeah, I talked to the Kings. There wasn't much there when you were gone. We obviously talked about Memphis together, so we can move into the next game here. Pretty interesting one. We get the Washington Wizards taking on the Portland Trailblazers on the Washington side of things. Another team that's trying to tank, failing at times. No Brogdon, no Koulibaly, no Kispert, no Sadiq Bey. Marcus Smart is questionable. Um, but yeah, pretty thin rotation here for Washington. My take with them lately has been just play the young guys because even if the game does get out of hand, guys like Sar, George, Carrington, even off the bench, who I won't be playing tonight, we have too much guard value. They're probably going to get that run in the fourth quarter either way. Sar looks good here. The price is up on him in a big way, though, now pushing 6K over that 65 mark on FanDuel. Don't mind him. Jordan Poole, obviously the highest ceiling here, just the toughest guy to trust on a night to night basis. Then Champagne, the guy I think everyone's going to want to talk about. So he's a little bit older than these rookies, obviously, but back-to-back games where he's absolutely crushed. He's a big reason, even with limited usage, that Washington has been competitive. I like him here, assuming he starts. I do think he's a bit over-owned at this price, but at the same time, I don't want to talk anyone off playing him. He has been absolutely outstanding, definitely trying to earn that next contract for sure. So yeah, Champagne, probably my favorite here. Kaishan George, super inconsistent, but I do think he's a decent tournament pivot. Tough for me to sit here and say I feel good about much else, though, for Washington. How are you handling the Wizards, Jayhawk?
Yeah, so I think with the Wizards here, we kind of touched on it earlier. Champagne, the most likely chalkiest one here. I think he's just okay. And then Kaishan and Chris Middleton, I think both have GPP appeal, both 8% owns. I'm getting to around 10% both, but it's just I feel like with Washington all year, man, it's just been like tough to nail down who gets there. Stars had some big games. I don't hate him at 4%. He obviously nuked against Jokic, I believe, in their last game. So I think Washington overall here, just kind of mixing in tournaments.
Yeah, totally with you. And yeah, sorry, his best game of the year came against Joker.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, I don't know, man. They've been tough, but I will say if Champagne starts, I do think he's solid. More so just because the model is getting there over a 15-point value rating on both sites. Obviously, love to see that. On the Portland side of things, Tumani Kamara was a late add to the injury report, which is usually a bad thing. He is questionable. No DeAndre Ayton. Jeremy Grant is doubtful. Jabari Walker, Robert Williams out here as well. So they're very thin, in the front court, which means we could go right back to Donovan Clingan. He's one of the chalkier centers on the slate tonight. It is a back-to-back for them. But yeah, trying to see if he's seen any sort of limit. So it's tricky because on the front end of back to backs, he's been rested, but on the back end, he's been getting the full run. I'm trying to identify a back to back where he wasn't limited at all. Proceeding with a little caution. I think he should be good to go here. We have him for 29 minutes. If he does play 29 minutes, I think he's perfectly solid to get to. Denny against his former team, obviously plenty of upside. Unfortunately, this game isn't in Washington. That homecoming was nightmare because he got hurt, had about 100% that night. But yeah, plenty of reason to like Denny here. Obviously, tons of upside. If Kamara's in, he's fine. If he's out, I think we're going to like Shady on Sharp, Anthony Simons, and maybe even a little bit of Scoot Henderson more. I think right now, where everyone's owned, Sharp might actually be my favorite. I think he's going to start here even if Kamara's in. Um, but yeah, I like Klingon a lot. I'm a little bit concerned about the back to backs though, because it's weird. He's usually limited on the front half. He played 30 minutes last night. We haven't seen him limited on the back half, but we don't really have any sample size data to pull that from. So I'm like really scrolling here trying to find it. But yeah, I think Klingon's fine. Maybe a little bit overowned knowing that risk, but it's such a good matchup. You can make a case for any of the Blazers. How are you handling Portland?
Yeah, you nailed it. I think Portland looks awesome here. The two guys I'm getting the most here, Denny and Klingon, have a bunch of both. I think they both look great. They were both chalk, I believe, yesterday as well. They look great here once again. And then I love that shade and sharp call. 6,700, 10% owned on DraftKings. Chalkier on FanDuel, but love that ownership on DraftKings. I think that's a really sharp call. No pun intended. Um, 6,700. So yeah, and then Scoot and Tumani, both like sub 10% owned. I wasn't getting to a bunch of either one, but I think Sharp, Denny, and Klingon definitely the guys I'm looking at here.
Yeah, and I do want to say, don't sleep on Simons. I mean, he definitely could get hot from three. He made six against Toronto. Didn't quite get there in terms of value, but against the Wizards, guys can get hot. I mean, this guy has shown ceilings that a lot of 7K plays aren't really capable of. We got one more 10 o'clock game. This is the last game on the FanDuel slate. Denver Nuggets taking on the Golden State Warriors. One of the more interesting games in terms of actual NBA basketball tonight. We got the Nuggets have Aaron Gordon questionable again. Jokic and Murray questionable here as well. So this is a little bit interesting. I'm thinking they all play. I don't really see a world where they sit, but at the same time, the fact they're all on this injury report this late in the day is certainly worth something. This is a game you think they'd want to win, though. So yeah, my hunch is they're in. Jokic is absolutely smashed against Golden State historically. One of the top OFNX plays, let me confirm this, the top OFNX play on the slate, and that is including Luka Doncic. Some of his biggest games this year have come against Golden State, so love him, assuming he is in and available. The thing is, his price is now up to 13K on DK, 12.9 on FanDuel. Definitely makes him tough to get to, but that's keeping the ownership down. So if you can get to him, probably my favorite pay up tonight. Not exactly a hot take, but we are going to have to wait on that news and confirm that he's in. If Murray is out, that would probably boost someone like Russ. If Gordon's out, excuse me, would boost the likes of Christian Brown and Michael Porter Jr. But I do like Denver here more than the field seems to. We are kind of waiting on some news, but yeah, I think Jokic at that ownership, man. If I could find the salary to jam him in, I want to do it. It's just can we? I think we have a lot of good like four to 5K range value tonight, not as much in the 3K range. So if you are paying for him, you're probably not getting to the Baines of the world, who we talked about we really liked in tournaments. But as I try to breathe here, how are you handling the Denver Nuggets?
Yeah, so starting with Jokic here, I agree. If I can get up to him, he's 13K, but he has been awesome. Great matchup against Golden State. 4.5 point spread, so pretty tight here, tight spread. Think he looks awesome. Get up to him, and then the rest of the team here. I'm pretty sure Christian Brown. Well, he was nuking last game until the end of the first half, and then he put up negative fantasy points in the second half somehow. But 6K flat, 1% owned. I'm always going to bump him as well, and then I think MPJ 2% owned as well, 6,400. You can firmly mix him in as well. Good spot here for MPJ too. So mainly Jokic, like you mentioned, but you can mix in the other guys too.
Yeah, and Russ off the bench has been seeing his normal minutes again. He's pushing 28 to 30 on a nightly basis. So even if this team is healthy, you need kind of one of those two for twos. You're waiting for Tyus Jones. He comes off the bench. Maybe you go up to someone like Russ if you don't have the salary. I agree. Christian Brown looks really good too. So use this team as kind of the pivots if you are kind of waiting on that Suns news, in my opinion. Over on the Golden State side of things, Curry's questionable as well. No pods. Quentin Post questionable. Otherwise, they do appear to be healthy. Again, this game is like kind of playoff implications as far as I know. I think Curry should be in and available. Where he's priced, not a priority, but whenever you get him sub 10%, I think he makes some sense. Butler's flashed a lot of upside. I think he's underpriced for what he's capable of. It's just he does have a pretty low floor on a night to night basis, but certainly someone I'm comfortable getting to. Draymond Green, not historically the most consistent player, but he's been kind of the most consistent player lately for these guys. Obviously, we're always worried about him getting ejected, especially against a guy like Joker. But as long as he's in and playing well, I think he's someone you could trust at that price point on both sides. Like that he has forward eligibility. Moses Moody probably going to get another start here. As far as mid range value goes, he's a great pivot off of the likes of Kevin Hurt or some of these other guys. Four straight games now. Let me just confirm this, where he's over 25 fantasy points, averaging over 30 minutes per night in those games. Against pretty good defenses too. Detroit and the Knicks are mixed in there, obviously with a couple softer matchups. But yeah, Moody, another guy you can kind of use to pivot around. I will mention Kuminga is back and available. Played around 20 minutes in back-to-back games. He's going to cut into some of these guys eventually. But for now, I'm fine getting to Green, Curry, Butler, Moody. Those are the four I'm most interested in. Seeing some sites projecting Guy Santos as the starter. Not for me, really, unless someone else were to be ruled out. But how are you handling the Warriors?
Yeah, so real quick note behind the Bulls here, Warriors have the second highest team total on the entire slate here. I feel like all these guys are coming under owned. In particular, I think Steph here looks super under owned. I've watched Denver. I put it in the Discord 2 nights ago. We've gotten torched all year by everyone, and I think Steph Curry could really light it up tonight. So love Steph Curry in tournaments. Love Draymond at his price. And then even Jimmy, 7,700, great price point, great spot for Jimmy in tournaments. So I'm going to be overweight to Golden State pretty heavily here in tournaments. Did you have a different take?
No, I think I'll probably be right there with you, man. I really can't argue with it. Yeah, Anthony here. Pacers are down four starters, so whoever I said I didn't think Turner would be out, um, hand me the L. I'll collect it. I was wrong. Turner is out, as is Tyrese Halliburton and Aaron Naismith. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about Indy. Let's give it a minute. Let's get into this last game, which is only on the DK slate. I don't think we're gonna have to spend too much time on it. We get the Spurs taking on the Lakers. On the San Antonio side of things, again, another team that's kind of tanking, shutting down their best players for the year. Bassie out, Branham, Duke, Fox, Ingram all out. Jordan McLaughlin questionable. Obviously, Wemby's out here as well. Castle has been excellent. I'm going to continue to play him. Don't mind getting to him whether he starts or comes off the bench. Devin Vassell looks pretty good here as well. As far as DK value goes, those are the two that are rating towards the top. Those are the two I trust the most. You can mix in the likes of Johnson or Sochan. I don't really feel great about either of them. And then Chris Paul's available. Just keep in mind his minutes have been capped. So even with the discount, I don't have much interest there. Spurs, I don't know, man. Not much interest for me, generally speaking, outside of maybe Castle and Vassell. How about you? How are you handling San Antonio?
Yeah, so San Antonio tonight, just I don't know. I'm not loving them. The past few slates, I've been really high on Castle and Vassell, but I just think tonight with all the other good plays we have, I feel like they're almost correctly priced. So maybe you can get to those two, but other than that, I'm not getting to much here, like you mentioned.
Yep, totally with you. Then over on the LA side of things, Power mentioned earlier, it is a back to back for the Lakers. Luca is available. I don't think we have to put any sort of cap on him. They need to win these games. Luca probable, Finney Smith probable. No Rui, LeBron, Jameson, or Kleber though. So I got to keep that in mind. As far as value goes, Jackson Hayes actually popping towards the top. Pretty inconsistent as far as what he's been doing. I don't mind mixing him in though. He's really shown us a higher ceiling than some of the other more popular center plays tonight. So if you're building late, waiting for news, I do think Jackson Hayes is a good way to kind of maybe create some maneuverability for yourself. Austin Reeves is God with Luca off the floor. Still pretty damn good with Luca on it, but at this price, I don't know that I could get there. Honestly, I would much rather find the salary for Luca if I can. Tough to trust these kind of secondary pieces, the Gooden, or the Goodwin, the Connects, the Vincents of the world. But I do like Hayes a lot more than the field does, and I really do like Luca. Kind of the same sentiment as Joker, though. It's tough to find the salary if you can. Obviously, one of the better plays on the slate. But how are you going to handle the Lakers?
Yeah, so Lakers here. First of all, I hadn't really looked at Jackson Hayes, but he's very low owned, so I don't think he's the craziest call. And then it's obviously just Luca for me, 26% owned. I think he looks awesome here. Back to back, like you mentioned, but great spot here for Luca. And then Austin Reeves, I wasn't getting much at his price, but I think he's a viable pivot to Luca here.
Yeah, I mean, if Luca were to be limited, I don't think he will be, but Reeves would be the guy to benefit, obviously. Just historically, Luca hasn't really had any issues playing back to backs. I don't think suddenly, now that he's in LA, they're going to start to put major caps on him. But yeah, we're going to have to talk about Indy here. Let's refresh, get to the chat, then we'll do a dummy build as we talk through this Pacers stuff, man. So yeah, we already knew Siakam was out. No Turner, and it's unicorn here. I'll give you your flowers. Brian at center. Yeah, we got to assume Thomas Bryant's going to be the starting center here. And whoever earlier I said it's probably not a two center night, that may have changed. So I'm hoping the model's updated. Let's see. Nope, not yet. And again, we already knew that Siakam was going to be out, so we already liked Toppin.
Yep.
Now I think we're going to have to like Thomas Bryant. TJ McConnell off the bench is going to look really good. Man, what's your initial take on the Pacers? I think Bryant's kind of a smash even against Gobert.
Yeah, Brian at 3K. I don't really care the matchup here. He's 3K flat, so smash. And then Obi Toppin, I think, looks even better.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, both of them look excellent. They're going to need to absorb some of this usage too. Projected lineup I'm seeing, and again, this is not official. Nemhard, Shepard, Matherin, Obi, and Bryant. And we haven't been playing Matherin much, but I will say this. He is very, very cheap now because his role has changed. He went from starter, kind of leading this team in usage, to coming off the bench, playing limited minutes. If he starts tonight and we get his minutes over 30, 4,400 for him if he's not going to be popular, really, really appealing as a tournament play. What's your take on TJ, man, off the bench? Obviously, we have a ton of good guard value on the slate, but the last game he played with Halliburton out against Milwaukee, he did go for 35, I think. So even in limited minutes, definitely some appeal there. Definitely more appealing on DK than he is on FanDuel, though.
Yeah, I think TJ is solid. I haven't got him like right because he remember he had that injury where I don't know
Yeah.
how he got hurt, but yeah, I think he's totally in play here, especially with Hallie out. So I don't hate it, man. We have a bunch of really good guard plays today.
Yeah, we have a ton of guard plays. All right, let's do the dummy. I was hoping we'd have the indie stuff, but I think we already know. Let me check the news, make sure there's nothing else crazy. Um, I think it's just indie. We haven't had anything else come through. Sion still a game time decisions. Fee's out. I don't really care too much about Fee. Okay, so are we starting with Bryant here?
Oh yeah, Thomas Bryant, let's do it.
Yeah, assuming he starts, kind of a no brainer. Um, what else are we liking? I mean, there are so many good guards. If Pippen's in, it's probably Pippen.
Pippen, yeah, yep,
If he's out, I mean, Trey Jones looks good. I think I want Kobe White.
yeah. I was gonna say Kobe. I think he's probably the safest out of the Chicago guys.
Yep, tend to agree. Feel free to throw a couple names at me. I mean, there's a lot
Uh,
to like tonight.
let's see here. Let's look. Do we put Toppin in there?
Nope, not yet.
Obi
I'm
Toppin.
fine with it though. Yeah, I think Toppin looks pretty damn good. Again, the model should kind of reflect this stuff, so just keep an eye on that. Obviously, not the best matchup, but these guys are going to need to be on the floor.
We should get
Small
a
forward. Go
we
ahead.
should get a spend up in here. Luka or maybe Jokic, one of the two. We have the we're gonna have the salary, so
Yeah, I do agree. Um, I mean, the model favors Jokic slightly.
I mean I'm good with either one. So whatever you like.
Yeah, I mean, Jokic is 1K more. Let's see if we can do it. If not, we could put in
Okay.
Luka. I think that's fine. Small forward. I know we have Herder for pretty cheap. I'm trying to think of who else. It's not a ton else I like. It's probably Herder.
Order. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. All right, 63K for guard. I mean, we got Trey Jones, Butler for Phillies. A little bit too expensive, maybe. McBride, I don't mind. I do like Trey Jones.
Yeah, I like both Jones, either one.
Yeah, we'll go Trey for now. Obviously, if Tyus gets to start, you can use him and probably get a more expensive forward. But for the sake of the video, we want to give you something cohesive here. We'll go with Trey
Yeah.
or something usable here. We'll go with Trey. And then forward, we're left at 6,800. Where's that going to take us?
Shaden
Ah,
Sharp,
Shady on Sharp. Love it.
perfect,
Or
perfect.
McDaniels if you wanted to go there. But this is a pretty damn good lineup, in my opinion. Obviously, there's a lot of options you could pivot around. Keep an eye on starting lineups, guys. Obviously, things could change rather quickly. Yeah, man. Any last thoughts before we get out of here? Are you on Discord today or is Smitty?
I think I'm on it, but it's a crazy slate. It should be a really fun one. Bunch of great plays today, so very fun slate.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, Devin Vassell fan club. No pain for center may not be the move to win. What are your thoughts on Sangoon versus Philly? I mean, it's a large field play to me, Chris. There's a lot of good value at center now, and there's a lot of good payups at center now. We have Sangoon, I don't know, fifth in OF index, and we're going to see some adjustment. I don't mind it. At the same time, I don't feel great about it, if I'm being honest. Any thoughts on that one, Jayhawk? I know we usually like Sangoon. It's just a weird slate to get to him, I think.
I mean, I think he's fine. It's just we talked about it. It's just the upside with the spread, and he could get there still in his minutes, but it's just tough to like prioritize him.
Yep, totally agree. Landon, to answer your question, no, Halliburton is not in. TJ McConnell does become viable, likely coming off the bench. If he were to start, he'd be even more appealing, but I think he's going to come off the bench. Nemhard looks a little bit better now, too. Wait and see on that Indy lineup, and the model should update soon. So, all the more reason to check the links in the description below. Thanks again, everyone. A lot to get through. Crazy time of year. Happy St. Patty's Day. Stay safe for those going out tonight. But yeah, enjoy, and hopefully we'll see you at the top of the leaderboards. Good luck and take care, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Good luck.